Welcome back to the Metabolic Compass podcast, where we recalibrate your biology and rediscover your direction. I'm your host, Brandon Soika. If your gut is off, your immune system is overreacting, or you feel like your body is inflamed all the time, but your labs still say you're fine, this episode is for you. Because what you're feeling isn't imaginary. It's the early warning signs of nurture domain drift, the foundational breakdown that often begins before symptoms become obvious. Today, we're going to explore 3 deeply connected breakdowns in your biology: gut dysfunction, chronic inflammation, and DNA vulnerability. These aren't separate problems. They form a loop, a pattern of drift that silently pulls your health off course, long before traditional medicine knows how to spot it. And while nurture is often the first domain to drift, it's not always the one you've noticed first. You might feel the crash in energy, in your mood, in your hormones. But the drift likely began long before that, with the biology of safety breaking down at the cellular level. That's why the Metabolic Compass doesn't assume your path looks like anyone else's. Instead of guessing, we give you the drift quiz so you can identify where you are right now and make a course correction from there. But just like a compass needle always reorients towards true north, every recalibration path eventually leads back to nurture. It's the foundation. It's the terrain everything else is built on. So in this episode, we're going to break down how gut dysfunction, immune activation, and genomic instability are interconnected and what it actually looks like to rebuild that foundation. When most people think about upgrading their health, they start with energy. They want to feel better, burn fat, improve their metabolism, clear brain fog. They jump straight into fasting, supplements, hormone protocols, or workouts. But your biology doesn't begin with optimization. It begins by asking one quiet foundational question. Am I safe? That's the essence of the nurture domain inside the Metabolic Compass. It's not just about mental calm or stress reduction. It's about whether your cells, tissues, and systems are getting the right signals to stop defending and start adapting. Because when your biology doesn't feel safe, it stops upgrading. It shifts into resource conservation. It cuts corners on the things that keep you feeling vibrant, like clean energy production, hormone regulation, and detox capacity. The problem is, you don't always feel that shift immediately. Nurture drift doesn't always show up as pain or disease. It often starts with vague, frustrating symptoms. Bloating or irregular digestion, even with a clean diet. Skin flare-ups that don't match your labs. Tiredness even after a full night's sleep. Weight gain in strange places despite no major changes. Brain fog or irritability you can't explain. And normal blood work that just doesn't match how you feel. These aren't random. They're smoke signals. Early signs that your body is operating in low-level defense mode. And while nurture is often the first domain to drift, it's not always the domain shouting the loudest. You may notice fatigue or mood issues more urgently, signals of drift in the Energize or withdraw domains. That's why the Metabolic Compass doesn't tell you to always start with nurture. Instead, it helps you identify your current position so you can begin where your biology is most responsive right now. But, and this is key, every course correction eventually brings you back to nurture. Because if the gut-liver axis is broken, if your immune system is in overdrive, if your DNA repair mechanisms are overwhelmed, then no amount of caffeine, cortisol support, or biohacking will create lasting change. Nurture is your terrain. It's your true north. And when it's fractured, the whole map gets harder to read. That's what this episode is about. We'll break down how gut dysfunction, chronic inflammation, and DNA instability are part of the same loop. What happens when that loop spirals out of control and how to reverse it. Because when your body can answer, yes, I'm safe, that's when real healing begins. Let's zoom in on where the nurture domain starts to unravel, because it's not just one organ or one system. It's a loop between 2 major powerhouses, your gut and your liver. Most people treat these as separate. Gut health is all about bloating, food sensitivities, maybe probiotics. Liver health, that's about detox, alcohol, and cleansing. But in reality, your gut and liver are in constant communication. They form a biological axis, an information highway that regulates immune balance, nutrient processing, hormone metabolism, and toxin clearance. And when the signals on that highway break down, it sets off a chain reaction. Here's how it works. Your gut lining is just one cell thick. That's thinner than a strand of hair, but it has a massive job, letting nutrients in and keeping pathogens, toxins, and undigested food particles out. When that barrier is intact, your immune system stays calm and your liver gets clean, filtered inputs. But when stress, processed foods, infections, or medications begin to wear that lining down, you start leaking the wrong signals into circulation. This is what people mean by leaky gut or intestinal permeability. And here's the key. When the gut barrier breaks down, your liver pays the price. Your liver is the first organ to receive blood from the gut. That means anything that slips through a compromised gut lining, like endotoxins, fragments of bacteria, or inflammatory molecules, That means anything that slips through a compromised gut lining, like endotoxins, fragments of bacteria, or inflammatory molecules, gets dumped directly into the liver via the portal vein. Your liver now has to deal with more than it was designed for. It's like a TSA agent suddenly having to scan an entire stadium's worth of passengers without backup. And when that overload happens, two things break down. One, detox efficiency drops. Toxins, hormones, and byproducts that should be cleared start building up. Two, inflammation ramps up. The liver activates immune defenses and releases inflammatory cytokines into circulation. This inflammation can then loop right back to the gut, causing more barrier breakdown, and the cycle continues. This gut-liver loop doesn't stop with these two organs. The immune system is listening to all of it. When the gut leaks and the liver is inflamed, your immune cells get the message that your body is under threat, even when there's no actual infection. This leads to what we call chronic low-grade inflammation, an invisible, simmering immune response that never shuts down. And that inflammation becomes the lens through which your biology views everything. You eat a food you used to tolerate, it now triggers symptoms. You try a new supplement, your system reacts to it. You sleep poorly one night, you feel wrecked the next day. Your brain fogs, your mood dips, your cravings spike. It's not that you've become fragile, it's that your internal safety network has been breached and the communication lines are jammed. The worst part? This loop can break down years before traditional labs catch anything. You could have normal liver enzymes, negative gut tests, and zero clinical diagnosis. But the loop is still degrading quietly in the background. You're not sick, but you're not well either. You're functioning, but with a lot of hidden friction. This is why the Metabolic Compass focuses on domains and drift, not just disease states. Because these breakdowns start long before diagnosis, but if you know what to look for, you can catch the signals early. That's why understanding the gut-liver axis is non-negotiable if you want to rebuild safety and metabolic stability. In the next segment, we'll talk about what this breakdown actually feels like, so you can recognize it in your own story and in the patterns you've probably been ignoring. Because healing starts when you start listening differently. Let's talk about how this actually shows up in real life. Because when the gut-liver immune loop starts to break down, it doesn't sound an alarm, it whispers. And those whispers, they get mislabeled, misunderstood, or completely ignored. Most people walking around with a fractured nurture system aren't in crisis. They're functional but frustrated. They go to work, they raise kids, they make it through the day, but they're constantly wondering why they feel like something is off, even if their labs keep coming back as normal. If that sounds familiar, you're not imagining it. Here's what nurture domain drift actually feels like in the body, the mind, and the immune system. Gut signals. This is often the first place things go quiet, and then sideways. You might start noticing bloating after meals, even when you're eating clean, constipation, loose stools, or swinging between the two, feeling full too quickly or hungry all the time, new sensitivities to foods you've eaten your whole life, a puffy or inflamed feeling around your midsection. And if you've tried gut protocols, maybe probiotics, low FODMAP, or GI testing and still don't feel right, that's a red flag that the issue isn't just digestion. It's the communication loop between the gut and the liver. Inflammation signals. This one's a little trickier because chronic low-grade inflammation doesn't always look dramatic. You won't spike a fever or break out in hives, but you may notice waking up feeling inflamed or swollen, joint stiffness that takes hours to go away, random skin flare-ups or rashes with no clear trigger, feeling puffy in your hands, ankles, or face, muscle soreness that lasts longer than it should. And these aren't just aging or overtraining. They're signs your body is fighting battles it shouldn't have to because the gut-liver barrier has been breached. The brain and mood signals. This is where people really start to doubt themselves. Because nurture drift doesn't just affect your digestion or inflammation, it reaches the brain too. When your immune system is constantly on edge, your brain chemistry feels it. You may feel anxious for no reason, like something is always about to go wrong, or numb, like your emotional responses are flatlined. You may struggle to focus, start tasks, or recall words mid-sentence. You might feel emotionally reactive, short-tempered, irritable, or overwhelmed. Or you just feel off, like you're not quite yourself anymore. And again, when you go to your doctor, the labs don't reflect how you feel. You're told it's stress or hormones or maybe aging, but deep down, you know this isn't how your body used to function. The overlooked DNA signals. Most people don't think about genomic instability until there's a diagnosis involved. But this breakdown happens far earlier and is part of the nurture domain. Here's how you might feel it. You don't bounce back from infections the way you used to. You get more frequent viruses or flares of old issues. You bruise more easily, heal more slowly, or feel like you're aging too fast. You've noticed signs of autoimmunity creeping in, like thyroid antibodies or unexplained fatigue. This is your DNA maintenance machinery struggling. Your body is cutting corners on repair and regeneration because it doesn't feel safe enough to invest in the future. So why this pattern gets missed? The reason all of this flies under the radar? Because it rarely shows up in one system at a time. It's not just gut or skin or brain. It's subtle dysfunction across many systems, slowly compounding. You get told your labs are fine. You get offered a PPI for digestion or an SSRI for mood or ibuprofen for inflammation. But no one puts the pieces together. And that's why the Metabolic Compass is so different. It helps you zoom out. It shows you that these aren't isolated complaints. They're one pattern of drift showing up in many places. And when you treat the pattern, not just the symptoms, you finally start to feel like yourself again. In the next segment, we're going to walk through how these signals actually interact with the other hallmarks of aging, because nurture doesn't drift in a vacuum. When it falters, everything downstream starts to shift. Now let's zoom out, because nurture doesn't just break down on its own. It's the first domino that topples everything else. If you've listened to earlier episodes, you know we frame aging and dysfunction around 12 biological hallmarks. Think of them as wear and tear patterns that show up when systems drift off course. The problem is, once nurture starts slipping, every other hallmark becomes more fragile. Let's take energy production, what we call the Energize domain. Your mitochondria are responsible for converting nutrients into cellular energy. But when your gut microbiome is out of sync and your liver is inflamed, two things happen. One, you don't absorb nutrients efficiently, so mitochondria don't get the raw materials they need. And two, you generate more oxidative stress, and mitochondria are the first to get damaged. This is why fatigue often follows gut issues. It's not that you just didn't sleep well. Your energy factories are burning dirty fuel. Chronic, low-grade inflammation is the thief that robs everything. It makes your cells resistant to insulin, blunting your blood sugar control. It blocks thyroid hormone conversion, slowing your metabolism. It alters cortisol rhythm, hijacking your stress response, and it overwhelms detox enzymes, leaving you chemically burdened. All of this shows up in the withdrawal domain, where hormone metabolism, detox capacity, and redox balance start to drift. So if you're struggling with stubborn weight, histamine sensitivity, mood swings, or detox reactions, there's a good chance the root cause isn't just hormonal. It's unresolved inflammation from nurture drift. Your body is smart. It's always assessing, can I invest in repair or do I need to stay on alert? When your immune system is constantly triggered by gut leakiness, by microbial imbalance, by toxin overload, it chooses defense over regeneration. And this has a direct impact on stem cell activity. Your ability to rebuild tissue declines. Telomere length. Your cellular aging speeds up. Epigenetic regulation. Your gene expression becomes disordered. And senescence. Damaged cells start accumulating and refusing to die off. So even if you're sleeping well and eating clean, your body won't heal efficiently if the underlying safety signals are broken. This is why nurture drift makes people feel stuck even when they're doing everything right. You might think, I just need to support my mitochondria, or I need hormone testing, or I should detox again. And yes, those things matter. But if nurture is still broken, if your gut liver immune loop is inflamed, overwhelmed, and dysregulated, then none of those downstream interventions will hold. It's like trying to remodel a house while the foundation is cracked. You can paint the walls, replace the windows, but eventually the whole structure shifts again. This is what makes the metabolic compass different. We don't guess. We map the patterns, we follow the signal drift, and we rebuild from the domain that's currently off course, not just the one that's the loudest or trendy. And over time, every path leads back to nurture. It's the axis of safety, the root of stability, the hidden source of energy, resilience, and regeneration. In the next segment, we'll talk about how to start recalibrating nurture with actual strategies that restore your gut-liver immune communication and bring your biology back into alignment. Because knowing the pattern is one thing, but changing it, that's where the real transformation happens. Okay, now that we've explored what nurture drift looks like and how it drags down every other domain, let's talk about what actually helps it heal. This isn't about eliminating every food group, taking 20 gut supplements, or doing another expensive lab panel. Restoring nurture is about rebuilding the loop between your gut, your liver, and your immune system. And the good news? That starts with small daily shifts. First, morning inputs matter more than you think. The first 90 minutes of your day shape your gut-liver rhythm. And one of the easiest ways to support nurture is through what you do and don't consume right away. Here's a quick strategy. Start with 30 grams of protein within 60 to 90 minutes of waking. Add a fiber source like chia, flax, or psyllium. Mix in butyrate support, and yes, a scoop of Biomen fits perfectly here. That simple combo does more than just fill you up. It helps regulate blood sugar, feeds the right microbes, stimulates bile flow, and improves intestinal barrier integrity. If you're someone who's not hungry in the morning or struggles with breakfast prep, a protein shake with fiber and Biomen can be a total game changer. 2. Delay the caffeine hit. This might be controversial, but we need to say it. Having caffeine before food in the morning worsens gut barrier function and can spike cortisol unnecessarily. Several recent studies suggest that caffeine before food reduces glucose tolerance and may impair insulin sensitivity, especially in women. That doesn't mean you have to give up your coffee. Just wait until after breakfast, once your biology has had a chance to stabilize. Small change, big reward. 3. Emphasize fermentable fiber, not just probiotics. Gut health isn't about which bugs you take. It's about what you feed them. Focus on prebiotic-rich foods that fuel butyrate-producing bacteria. Some of the best sources include cooked and cooled potatoes, green bananas or banana flour, garlic, onions, and leeks, lentils, navy beans, and chickpeas, and ground flax and oats. These foods support your microbial community, increase endogenous butyrate production, and help calm low-grade inflammation from the inside out. 4. Support DNA repair naturally. This is one of the most overlooked parts of the nurture domain. You can enhance DNA repair and genomic stability with folate from leafy greens, not synthetic folic acid, methyl donors like choline from egg yolks or sunflower lecithin, polyphenols like sulforaphane from broccoli sprouts, and low-dose N-acetylcysteine to support glutathione levels. You don't need to go overboard, but a few of these key inputs can make your body more efficient at restoring damaged cells. And remember, genomic instability doesn't just increase cancer risk. It slows regeneration, increases immune burden, and contributes to why you don't feel like yourself. 5. Rebuild the immune calm. When your body no longer feels chronically threatened, it finally starts to repair. This is where nervous system tone and immune signaling begin to reset. A few practices that actually move the needle. 5 to 10 minutes of diaphragmatic breathing after meals, walking outside after eating, a powerful way to reduce postprandial glucose and calm the vagus nerve. Spending 20 minutes in the sun each day, ideally morning light. These aren't trendy, they're not complicated, but they signal to your body you're not in crisis anymore. You can exhale, and that's when nurture starts to rebuild. In the next segment, we'll zoom out once more and look at how nurture connects back to the compass framework. Because once you restore this domain, everything else responds more predictably. Your metabolism improves, your resilience returns, and you finally get traction on the symptoms that once felt impossible to fix. You've probably picked up on this by now, but nurture isn't just one of the 4 compass directions. It's the anchor. It holds everything else together, quietly, invisibly, and often without credit, until it falls apart. Let's take a step back and revisit how the Metabolic Compass framework works. We divide biological function into 4 domains: nurture, energize, strengthen, and withdraw. Each one represents a specific type of metabolic task, and each one is built on a different type of biological signal. Nurture is about safety signals, immune regulation, gut-brain crosstalk, and genomic repair. Energize governs resource generation, mitochondrial output, protein turnover, and nutrient sensing. Strengthen reflects resilience capacity, cellular regeneration, stem cell renewal, and telomere length. And withdraw manages recycling and elimination, hormone clearance, detoxification, and redox balance. These aren't random buckets. They're the actual sequences your biology follows when trying to adapt or recover from drift. In nurture, it always comes first. Not because it's the loudest, but because it sets the baseline conditions for every other function to work. Without nurture, the rest of the system fails. Let's say you want better energy. You're taking mitochondrial supplements, getting sunlight, moving your body. But if your gut is inflamed, if your immune system is on high alert, if your DNA repair is under stress, your mitochondria will not function properly. They're being asked to sprint while your body is still trying to put out fires. Or maybe you're focused on hormones. You're optimizing your thyroid or addressing estrogen dominance. But if you haven't restored immune tolerance through the gut-liver axis, your detox pathways stay jammed, and the hormone therapies never really stick. This is why we say nurture is the anchor of all healing. It precedes adaptation. It prepares the terrain. It clears the noise so your other systems can respond. Here's the paradox. You don't always start with nurture. You start with where your drift is most active right now. That's what the drift quiz helps you determine. You may begin in energize or withdraw or strengthen based on your most urgent symptoms, but eventually your path loops back to this domain. Because lasting change requires a foundation of safety, both at the immune level and the cellular level. And when the foundation is restored, suddenly everything else works better. Supplements become more effective, hormones respond with less effort, detox no longer crashes you, energy becomes sustainable, even weight starts to shift without force. That's what happens when your biology gets back in sync. Not through extremes, not through hacks, but through restoring the biological anchor. So as we wrap up this segment, here's what I want you to remember. If nothing you're doing seems to stick, if you feel like you're chasing symptoms in circles, if your energy, hormones, and mood are a roller coaster, it may not be that you're doing it wrong. It may be that you haven't returned to the anchor point yet. That anchor is nurture. And when you restore it, your compass starts pointing true again. If you've been listening to this episode and recognizing yourself in the patterns, there's no need to overwhelm. The real power of the Metabolic Compass isn't in pointing out what's wrong. It's in showing you where to begin when everything feels tangled. And nurture, the domain we've been unpacking today, is where a surprising number of issues start. Not because your gut, liver, or immune system are always the loudest, but because they create the conditions for every other system in your body to function properly. When nurture starts to drift, the rest of your biology begins compensating. You get tired more easily. Your skin becomes reactive. You stop tolerating foods, environments, or even stressors that never used to bother you. And unless you understand that pattern, it's easy to chase the wrong solution. To try detoxes when your gut lining is still inflamed, to push workouts when your nutrient absorption is compromised, to try hormone support when your immune system is dysregulated. So here's what to do now. If today's episode hit home, don't just listen. Check in with your biology. We built the drift quiz so you can identify which compass domain is drifting most in your body right now. It's quick, it's free, and it gives you an actionable starting point. Go to themetabolic-compass.com/quiz. You'll get a personalized report that doesn't just label you, it orients you. And based on your results, we'll send you a free 2-week protocol to begin realigning that domain, starting with just a few daily shifts. Whether nurture is your primary drift or one of the other 3, you'll finally have clarity on what's driving your symptoms and what to do about it. Today, we focused on the domain that quietly erodes your baseline, the breakdown of safety, gut-liver coordination, and inflammation. But in the next episode, we turn to the domain that's often the first to collapse when you've been running too hard for too long: Energize. Because while inflammation may be the spark, it's broken energy systems that leave you depleted, dysregulated, and unable to bounce back. We'll look at what happens when your mitochondria start to slip, how protein stress builds up silently, and why your body may no longer recognize how to burn fuel efficiently. If you've ever wondered why you're still tired even when you rest, or why eating clean doesn't give you the energy it used to, episode 22, The Energize Breakdown, Mitochondria, Protein Stress, and Broken Fuel Signals, is the one you don't want to miss. Until then, take the quiz, check in with your compass, and remember, every biological drift is reversible, but only if you know where to begin. Let's make sure you're starting in the right place. You've been listening to the Metabolic Compass podcast, where we bridge cutting-edge science with real-life application to help you reclaim your health one directional shift at a time. To learn more, visit us at www.themetaboliccompass.com or follow us on Instagram and TikTok at The Metabolic Compass. And if you haven't already, leave a review. It helps others find their way back to alignment too. Recalibrate your biology, rediscover your direction.